But I got to tell you guys, another number, so that's total BS, right? But another number which stands out to me uh, that they've been spewing out is, and it's in a sentence, and it usually, that sentence they apply pretty much to anything that Israel's involved in. They say this, fill in the blank, was promised to them, like by them they mean the Jewish people or Israel, 3,000 years ago. My friends, sometimes, like a broken clock, the anti-Semite is sent to us to remind us of something, remind us of who we are. In this particular case, guys, I gotta tell you, especially since today is the anniversary of the passing of our foremother, Rachel, Yosef's mother, right? And I believe, is it Binyamin's mother? I think so, yeah. I gotta get my Tanakh stuff, So a lot of us have gotten into our heads that the state of Israel is something novel, meaning the modern state of Israel is something novel, is something that was given to us by, the UN, the British Empire, the San Remo Accords, the Balfour Declaration, even, Stalin, who voted in favor of it because he thought it was going to be some socialist outpost, and then he realized it wasn't. Basically, we've been psyoped to believe that the land of Israel was given to us by the nations, and that even certain parts of the land of Israel were not even originally ours, and then we, kind of just ended up there, that we're not the indigenous people. We've psyoped ourselves to believe that. My friends, nothing can be further from the truth. We were always in the land of Israel. There was always a presence. Just because most of us were kicked out and there was a small presence for this entire time, 1900 years before we got a state, the modern state, doesn't mean it's not our land. It doesn't mean that there was no presence, folks, right? As we know, or in case you don't know, I'm telling you, rabbis of every generation, big rabbis, either went themselves or sent their students to go live in the land of Israel, set up shop in the land of Israel, set up yeshivot, houses of study in the land of Israel. You can literally travel up and down the land. Go to the Galilee, my friends. Go to the Galil. You'll see kivarim. You'll see graves. You'll see yeshivas. You'll see historical landmarks marking where rabbis lived, studied, and eventually were buried. Rabbis from the Talmudic era, rabbis from the Middle Ages, rabbis from, let's say, the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. Some of our most famous songs that we sing on Shabbat were written by rabbis who lived in Israel in, the Middle Ages, or even as quote-unquote recently as the 15 or 1600s. Folks like Gaza, for example. I've said this many times. One of the most famous Shabbat songs, Ya Ribon Olam, was written by Rabbi Israel Nachara, who was the head rabbi of Gaza in the 1600s, I think early 1600s. Right? We were always there, my friends. These are Jewish places, Jewish land. And there's a reason religious people, very holy rabbis, were traveling to these places and sending their students to these places despite, you want to talk about danger. We did not have an army at that time. We did not have a big bad IDF. We didn't have any, anyone to do so-called genocided, supposedly, allegedly, on our enemies, right? Of what you accuse us of. And or to defend ourselves. We didn't have any of that, guys. We just had rabbis going there, horse and buggy, traveling through, what was then the Ottoman Empire. And before that, it was, all kinds of other Islamic empires, Arab, Mamluk, whatever, right? Middle Ages, Christian empires. So, a lot of danger, guys. Why would rabbis from all parts of the world, you're talking about, yes, at that time, Western Europe, even Central Europe, Germany, Poland, France, Spain, England, all these different places, rabbis from North Africa, rabbis from Iraq, why would they travel to the land of Israel unless there's something there for them? What is there for them? The land of the forefathers and the foremothers. You know, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, all these different people, right? Unless there's something there for them. That is the only reason they would travel to these places, guys. So, these anti-Semites are talking about 3,000 years. Yeah, it's been more than that, and they're reminding us. They're reminding us that yes, it has been promised over 3,000 years ago, right? And we've forgotten, guys, because we've created this whole, modern day, what I call Zionism industry. Now we just had the World Zionist Congress, right? And then they talk about Jabotinsky and all this, like Ben Gurion and all these modern stuff. It's almost as if, Jews appeared in Israel in 1948, like a bat out of hell, like a poof, like you ever watch Star Trek with the, when they just, teleport, whatever you call it. It's almost as if that happened, you know what I mean? But we know that's not the case, guys. We know that's not the case. And again, you can go up and down the land, all these Kevarim, in the Galilee, you're talking about, in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in central Israel, in the center of the country, in the Golan, old synagogues from like the Talmudic era. In a place like, you guys go to a place like Susia, where the Jews left after the destruction of the Second Temple. Excuse me, you have mikvahs, you have synagogues from like the years 300, 400, 500 CE, 600 CE, 600s. My friends, all you gotta do is just walk around the land and open your eyes. Open your eyes, Neo. And you'll find some interesting stuff. And if you're saying, no, you guys are not the real Jews, the ones of today. Those were the real Jews. Folks, there are people today, I'm going to repeat this again, who live in Flatbush, Brooklyn, families, right? Who have obviously relatives who live in Israel, who have literally, excuse me, some like mold here, literally pieces of paper in their families going back generations, archival pieces of paper that can trace their families back to the land of Israel, to some of the rabbis from literally in the Talmud, speaking about the Semites, who like to cite the Talmud and misquote the Talmud. So, my friends, we're the same people as we were all those years ago. And anti-Semites can't imagine that. They can't imagine that someone, a group of people, and a tradition, a Mesorah, something that's, what we call time immemorial, can be carried down, can be traced back through an literally unbroken chain, even though they tried to break the chain in places like, where I'm from, the Soviet Union, other places they tried to break the chain. Even the assimilation in America has been something that has been threatening to break that chain, but it hasn't, really. Folks, but they can't understand how a people would keep this in their, so to speak, psyche, right? And in their tradition for thousands of years. Folks, again, I said it before, I'm saying it again. The end of every Passover Seder next year in Jerusalem, the end of every Yom Kippur service after Ne'ilah, next year in Jerusalem, we blow the shofar. Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Okay? Hanukkah, my friends, rededication of the temple. We're talking about the battles that we had in the Shomron, in Samaria, what they call the West Bank, erroneously, in the media. You can go there, friends. You can see, you can go there. Go to a place like Shiloh. You could literally see the remains of the tabernacle that was before Jerusalem for 369 years. Just travel the land, go to the land, and you'll see just either artifact or grave or your synagogue, or marking, like landmark or plaque, just throughout the ages. Rabbi this, rabbi that, family this, family that, rabbi blah, rabbi. It just goes, folks. It just goes on and on and on. So when the anti-Semites blurt out, this was blah 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 promised to them 3,000 years ago, you schmucks ain't wrong. You schmucks ain't wrong. And honestly, I thank you, because many of us have forgotten. It takes, you got to take a few kids every year on this trip called Birthright, and even then they don't show them everything. And unfortunately on Birthright, I was on that trip years ago, however many years ago, almost 20, right, 18 years ago. And what do they show us? Yeah, they show us Ben Gurion House, It's interesting, but, folks, go to Tiberias, check out the graves of rabbis from the Talmudic era, check out the grave of Maimonides. Go to the Galilee, go to Tzfat, go to Meron, right? Go to Meron Falag Ma'omer and dance next to Shimon Bar Yochai he lived the time of the Romans, okay? Go to the tomb of Rabbi Akiva in Tiberias, a lot of them in Tiberias, right? Go check it out, guys. Go to see, tombs of rabbis from I don't know, maybe like the Middle Ages, or some even rabbis from 1800s near Tel Aviv area. Givatayim, Go to the tomb of Baba Sali. Granted, he was in the modern era, but still. And then his family that goes back, like his father and grandfather and great-grandfather, who literally slept from Morocco. Okay? Folks, there are tombs. One of their tombs is in Morocco, where Muslims go to pray there in Morocco because they believe that this person is, holy from their family, the Abu Hazara family. But they slept to Israel, folks, from Morocco. Why? Before the state of Israel. Way before the state of Israel. Why? Are they nuts? Maybe they are. Folks, I'm not talking to the anti-Semites. I'm talking to you guys, the Jewish people who are forgotten. The Jewish people, some of you who are voting for Lord knows why, Mamdani. And I'm not even talking about the ones who identify as Jewish. I'm talking about the ones who you are Dafka Jewish, you're going to vote for this Mamdani guy. You've forgotten, and the anti-Semites are reminding you, yeah, X, Y, and Z was promised to you. The land of Israel was promised to you over 3,000 years ago. And they're not going to stop reminding us, guys. Yeah, they're going to blurt out random numbers. They're literally like a random number generator, these people, right? But that one number, 3,000, again, it's more. 33-ish and change, right? 3,300 and change. There's no denying it. And it upsets them greatly. It really, really upsets them greatly. It upsets the Arabs, who know that this is a fact. It upsets these anti-Semites because they think that they're, they have their whole replacement theology. And it just upsets people in general because it shakes their neshama. Why was this not promised to us? Well, it was offered to them, and they declined. It's a midrash on that, right, guys? These people declined because of this. These people, these guys could not steal. These guys couldn't stop murdering. These guys, Hashem said, you can have the land if you, whatever, right? Or you got the Torah. That was the Torah that was offered, but the Torah, and on top of that, the land of Israel. So we accepted it. Avram Avinu accepted it when he this is from last week's parsha, when he stood up and he went, and then we know when his wife died, we'll find out in next week's parsha, Chayei Sarah, he was willing to pay equivalent of billions of dollars to buy a plot from a Hittite, in Hebron. That's how we know Hebron is ours. One of the places. My friends, 3,000. Yeah, that, broken clock is right every once in a while. And I guess thank you to the anti-Semites for reminding us who we are and what belongs to us. All right, guys. Shavua Tov. Have a great week, and this week should be interesting. Looking forward.